Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy 2026. This is our first epi of 2026.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
And let's get into Lewwe Go There. What are we getting into there today?
We are getting into health, and I don't know why I thought that would not be like a vast range that I could go on and on and on and on about, thinking that this might just be 3 minutes long because what do we have to talk about with health? Which is so silly, because the number one thing that hopefully people are wishing each other for the new year and for always is to be happy, to be healthy, and to be healing, which you can't really do that unless you are minding your health.
Yeah, gotta be mindful.
Which is also why I have these sunglasses on. I may take them off at some point, but I am not messing with my health. I did have corrective eye surgery just, I guess, about 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I really have to be cognizant of the fact that the sun is going to burn them.
How was that experience for you? Because a lot of people, they get LASIK, which is not what you got.
Yeah.
Because you were legally blind, right?
Yes. So basically, let's go there. I started losing my sight at around 8 years old. That's the first time that I had glasses. And then an interesting thing happened. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, but it stopped after 10 years. Because had it kept going, like the way I think about what my prescription was, by the time that I would have been 18, I was considered legally blind. So legally blind is when your prescription, shout out to Cass, correct me if I'm wrong, my sister, because I believe it's negative 6.0 if your prescription is that or higher.
Okay.
By the time I had my surgery, one of my eyes was like an 8.5.
Yeah,
and to give you an example, they usually will not do it. If you're past the 10, you don't get this surgery. So yeah, I opted in for PRK. PRK was actually around before LASIK came into play.
Okay.
And so the really quick comparison, pros and cons that I had to weigh for myself, is that with PRK, it is a longer recovery, right? And with LASIK, essentially like a couple of hours later, you can be back to normal, doing what you're doing. You can even go to work, all that. But that is just the short term. The long term of it is PRK. You can just kind of go about your life. Things are all groovy. If you are somebody that rubs your eyes, which don't do that. I do it though. So that's why I'm saying I know myself, and I know that I am going to rub my eye. When you have LASIK, they build out this kind of flap thing where you can essentially get an infection and just like jack up a whole thing if you're just rubbing your eye. And I just knew myself too well. So it was, a little bit of a recovery. With PRK, I had to do them separately, about 2 months apart. So again, I am driving, I'm working in a casino, bright lights, I'm driving with just one eye basically, all of that, so that was kind of crazy, but I know like in the end it was the best thing for me. So.
Right, but like talk about more of the experience of doing the surgery itself, because I know that was a scary one for you.
Very scary, but I tell you, this is where the breath work, which I was just doing a little while ago, it comes into play, right? Because most people, I don't know the statistics on them, so I won't even say it, but most people that do either of these surgeries take a Valium for it, right? And so, I mean, I am not one, as we will, I'm sure, dive into a lot, to want to use pharmaceutical products unless 100% necessary. Yeah. So knowing that the Valium is meant to, calm your CNS down, you're in the sympathetic nervous system, it's supposed to be the parasympathetic. Yeah. So honestly, during the wait time, I was repeating to myself, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm healing. I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm healing.
That's a beautiful mantra and a powerful one.
And so I opted out of the Valium. I did not partake in cannabis, anything. I wanted to be like obviously sharp enough, because they are essentially holding a laser, and your eye, this is the part that is like probably the worst. So they are basically like grabbing your eyelashes, flipping back, and it's taped. So your eye is just open. I'm like, hold on, just open.
Eyeball.
Your eyeball is just there. And they are essentially putting a laser on it. And I will say, I could smell certain things, and I could hear certain things, but no joke, I went on a trip. I actually felt like very at peace.
Mhm.
I felt like I was in space,
Okay.
all that. I will say what they do before you get there is a whole series of numbing drops. So they're not just going in, like you are getting, like I didn't take the Valium,
Right.
but you are getting the medication to make sure that, you know, you're not going to feel all of
Too
that.
much, yeah.
Yeah. So, and actually, of course, can't be simple. Someone had done the drops, but then I think it was out of order. So then I actually got pushed. So I'm over here like in panic mode.
Oh my god.
And I got pushed to the next person because they needed to come back and repeat the process.
So it's like a reset.
Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was just like, oh my God, now do I have too much medication? Like, is this, you know, like the whole
You're
thing runs through your mind.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, the doctor was fantastic, and I felt like very, very safe in the moment, and I just felt like super nerd. And when he said that I was very, now I can't think of what the word. I feel like he said like, yeah, you were super calm, or you were a great patient, kind of thing, you know,
Right.
because people will try to. It's like obviously I'm not going to try to move. I'm just gonna get
Trust.
this done.
It's
Yeah.
very trusting.
It is very trusting. And a lot of people have very valid concerns too on the after care for it, that, you know, your eyes are so dry that you just like, you know, can't even function. And people that do go through that is a serious thing.
Yeah.
But this is why you do have to use the eye drops, and what I'm doing, use sunglasses, because I
Right.
made that mistake one time and I will not make it again, where I was on a Zoom call meeting outside. And, you know, not realizing, because it wasn't as sunny as it is now, it was more overcasty, but that's when those UVs are there too.
Mhm.
And so,
Wear sunscreen too, people.
yes, please. We'd be on SPF 50 here. So, but yeah, so basically I'm on the Zoom call, you know, let's say it was, I don't know if it was half an hour or an hour, but we'll say I was on for an hour. Okay. For 2 full days, I had, and I don't get headaches easy, I had like a migraine type headache that I finally had to ask you to go to the pharmacy, because we never even have Advils and things on us, because we're
Yeah.
not, either one of us really likes to take it. But again, sometimes you just have to.
Yeah.
It was really bad. I was nauseous. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And then, yeah, again, shout out Cass. I asked my sister, who is at her last piece of the puzzle for being an optometrist. And so it's scary, because I obviously don't remember the name of what she told me, but it's some kind of disease that you can actually get for exposure to direct sunlight. And especially when you've had the surgery that I've had, my eyes are extra sensitive. And then once you're over 40, things go up like that. As you were saying about after you hit 30.
Right, yeah.
I know it's like a different tangent, but it's important.
For those of you who do not exercise as much as you should, who don't move your bodies, who don't do strength training, I think you just need to keep in mind that after you turn 30, you begin to lose your muscles, your muscle mass, about 3 to 5% per year, I believe, unless you actually do strength training, unless you do like resistance training, and that sort of thing, even body weight training. Yeah, flexibility is also really important, because if you don't adapt your muscles and work on flexibility and mobility, that's where you could get like injuries easier than the person who is like always working on their calves and their ankles and these body parts that a lot of people don't think about. It's to keep you active and keep you strong as you age, so you age gracefully and you don't look like how you age. I mean, just look at me, I'm 30.
And I'm 41.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think that's so important. I know what we've been talking about is women's health.
Yeah.
Because shocker,
We're
women are, and it's just way more overlooked.
Yeah.
In every capacity. Like when we're talking physical, gynecological, and then when we're talking mental. Because, you know, I know we've talked about ADHD before, and things of that nature. The fact that girls were never tested, so a lot of women that are now in my age range that are perimenopausal, since that's like 35 to 45, 50, it's like are now discovering that on top of all of this, they have ADHD.
Yeah.
But guess what? Did they just like have ADHD when they turn 40? No, they've been living with ADHD their entire lives, or some form of that, right?
Yeah. Because they only test for boys for that. back in the day.
Yeah. And the way that they both act is completely different in all of those ways. You know, like boys tend to be more aggressive and, you know, showing it outward, whereas girls go really in, and that's where a lot of the depression and things come around.
Have you realized as a woman you tend to feel cold while in rooms while men tend to like just feel normal? It's because even things like that we deal with on the daily, they have statistics based on what men prefer. They do studies with old women, so that's why we're probably always a little bit more colder than guys.
And on top of that, it's white men, so black women literally have no studies.
Yeah, it sucks.
And so that brings us to like healthcare out here. How do you feel like the healthcare is out here?
I'm grateful that healthcare is free, but there are pros and cons to everything, right? And one of the major cons is like wait times. I remember my dad having accidents when he was like heavy into his woodwork, and it took hours for them to like see about his hand, which was like bust wide open from like
I remember that.
like a saw type machinery. You know, so it's really scary that we don't have a better system in place, and I know healthcare costs a lot. So like I said, I'm very grateful, but there are things that we also like may not have machinery for, or even like people who are specialized in. So even though healthcare is free, a lot of times people do have to go away. Like even your sister, right? Would have seen like people from different nationalities and stuff when like she's been doing her
on her rotation right now. She's literally seeing people that one was from Trinidad, you know, one was from Japan, one was from Mexico. I mean, literally, like they're coming from all over depending on whatever the situation is.
So that I feel like sums it up as a outsider, like not somebody specifically in the medical field in Trinidad and Tobago. But if you have more insights and you want to share with us, drop it in the comments. We'd love to learn more.
We always love to learn more, definitely. And I feel the same in Canada. That's how it is. You know, the universal healthcare, which like thank God, you know, there's universal healthcare, but it definitely was a like you have to wait for everything, and like sometimes there is no waiting. You know, and I feel I have definitely been very blessed and, you know, privileged in certain ways where I happen to have the right kind of insurance at the right time. But I had moments where I didn't have any insurance. And I'm like, if that had happened then, oh my gosh, right? Yeah. So I really do feel like that blessing of it, and that I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it wasn't the exception to the rule. I wish everybody got top tier great healthcare, because for me, I know that it saved my life on multiple occasions. And you know, the more recent was a day before my 40th birthday. I had gone to a new doctor. They did my blood work and everything like that, and I just like went about my life. I was having a friend come and meet me, and I was all excited.
2 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, April will make 2 years. Basically, long story short, the doctor that had just met me was in panic mode and was like, you need to get to the hospital right now. You need to go to the ER and you need to have a blood transfusion, because my hematocrit levels and hemoglobin and everything was so down that she didn't know how I was walking around, basically. And
you're a goddamn miracle.
Somehow I was actually very calm, and just thought, oh, well, my periods have been absolutely horrendous. And I know it has to do with that because I had recently just had it. I had just finished it. And I knew this was on a Friday. I knew that on the Monday I had a gynecology appointment. So I knew I was going to address it. And I knew I didn't want to spend my birthday weekend in the hospital getting a transfusion. I'm not saying try this at home. I'm saying this is what happened to me. And basically went from there. I got like an emergency kind of appointment. And again, I'm going to stress the privilege and the blessing of this, and give like multiple shout outs for people that literally saved my life.
You had a lot of people advocating
angels,
for you,
absolute angels.
Well.
Yes, literally had an angel who was the secretary of my doctor, who was also an angel that saved me. And I was on the phone like on the daily. She's really sweet person. I literally went to kindergarten with her daughter, so she's like a surrogate mom. Tina! And so, yeah, she made sure, like, basically this happened in April. I had the surgery in June. That is not people's stories.
Yeah.
They are waiting a year. Like, I truly felt towards the end of it, and I'm not even going through how horrific it was. But basically, I had a fibroid embedded into my uterus, and they had tried to go in like a much easier way than having to do surgery, where it was just like a very quick in and out procedure. And unfortunately, because of the positioning and how big and everything, I had no choice but to have a hysterectomy, or they call it partial, since I have the ovaries and everything. But it's, yeah, just bye-bye uterus. And so basically this surgery, had it not happened when it did, I honestly don't know that I would be here. It was to the point, I mean, you know, I was talking to you all the time, and we weren't even like near each other.
Yeah.
It was like the beginning of our relationship, long distance. Yeah. But I mean, it was to the point where I was just bleeding out and bleeding out and bleeding out, and having the most excruciating pain. And so then I had to go on medication. Now, this is what I want to talk about too. So I went on the medication, which again, in these situations, I deem that necessary.
Yeah.
And they were trying to do a basically like blocker, so that way I wouldn't completely bleed out. Now, let me tell you, when I say that I'm very sensitive to drugs because I don't really use them. Yeah. So when I was reading the side effects, I was noticing that I was getting every single side effect.
That's
and
crazy.
The last couple of them were pertaining to breasts, and it was literally like the tenderness and you know, enlargement, all this kind of stuff, and then it's like breast cancer as a side effect to, again, women's health. Good job, you know? So basically I opted to stop taking the medication, and again, was on the phone all the time. I got bumped up. My surgery was an amazing success. Haven't had a period in a year and a half, and honestly, like, feel so good, because like when people, I mean, I will never stop feeling for and everything when any woman has their cycle. Like, I want to be that friend that just has a tampon, like, or whatever she needs, you know, like, I got you moral support, because it's horrible. And it's like, we're really meant to feel shame around it. I feel like, you know, embarrassment even.
Speaking of periods, I still have them.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And it kind of sucks a little bit for me, because I know I don't want to have children. So it's like, okay, guess I'll keep on going, right? But even with that, having periods and realizing that basically all of the options that we have for that time of the month is like horrendous. Pads, yeah, they have forever chemicals in them that are not good for your body, that you just put in on your most private part, no big deal. Cups, they're like silicone, they're like plastic, which you're like inserting inside of you for like hours. And then it's like, yeah, I know there are some more. They're definitely not modern options, because I feel like it's like going back to the old ways, which are actually really the best ways. Like, I bought a bunch of, they're called lily pads, from a friend of mine. I'm not too sure if they still make it. Amy, shout out to you. And they are really good, but for a heavy bleeder like me, like 4 hours I need to change, which is not ideal, like if you're on the go and that sort of thing, which is why right now I am in the menstrual cup plan. I wish it was called a menstrual cup, but
yeah, don't we all?
The patriarchy. Yeah, so it's like, I don't have a solution for this. I'm not a scientist, but if anyone has any options out there for like the most natural way to do it, let me know. I know people free bleed. I don't have that level of trust yet.
And some people literally can't do that. That is not an option.
Yeah, I think like even not just like the pads, but there are people who do like pants and stuff as well that like help with free bleeding. So any info you have that could help us, as we may have things that could help you, just let us know.
Share
in the comments.
Community. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're gonna pause there and come back with part 2.
Yeah. So we'll catch you in the next episode of While We Go There. Bye.